Do you think that the generation coming up, or as a dancer in the industry who is South Asian, that one needs to have a discipline that is of their culture and be grounded in that, be that has that as a fundamental, and or can you have it's such a hard question to ask. I ask this because in the UK, brown dancers are only brought together for brown-based projects. The black dancers are always together for like music videos, like the Dua Lipa video will come out, like it'll be like mixed race dancers, it'll be things like that. Sometimes there'll be just like two people auditioning in that room, that'll be like South Asian or mixed race. Some of them have no clue of South Asian fundamentals, and then we all get pocketed as Bollywood. And some of them don't even know what Bollywood is because the mediocrity of the work that the Bollywood companies do over here, and I'm sure over there as well, some of them is to sustainability, a revenue, and to add like a touch to like a wedding or something like that. And sometimes it's not just the work, like you want to teach general level and that, does revenue and then sometimes we're brought together. So like some of us did like a Marvel project, The Eternals coming out. It was like 50 of the UK dancers. So it's a weird space. So do you guys think that as South Asian dancers, you need to have a fundamental or a connection to your culture in the discipline that you're going into? That's my first question. And then if you go as a dancer who's just trained in Western styles and then you get pocketed into Bollywood and then it's the cliche stuff, do you think it becomes a responsibility where you do have to go educate yourself, or it's not a responsibility because that's what the industry has kind of like forced on you and you're just going along with it, trying to live for a paycheck?
A lot of hard questions.
I can ask easy ones if you want me to.
Okay. On the second one, yeah, I think that like if you've only trained in Western styles and like or stereotype quality, like that's a hard one because one, like for me, I would hate that. Like if I didn't know any Indian dance and then that's like all people wanted me to do, I'd be like, even knowing Indian dance and having that be all people want me to do is like makes me sad. Just because no one should be stereotyped. Period. Like let's just like, at that level, let's just like nix that. But I think for anyone doing any type of dance style, like yeah, you should know the history of it. Like, and so if you are like doing Bollywood work to pay the bills, whatever it is, no matter what, like be educated in that. If you're doing African dance, if you're doing something, you just like need to be educated in the culture you're participating in, because it's just important, whether that's tap, whether that's hip hop, but like knowing that these all came from like communities that have history. Like I think that's always important. So that's what I'd say about the second one. And then the first one, it's interesting because like again, like in the mainstream industry, there's straight up five of us. Like and I know, and they're all my very close friends.
Yeah.
Like because this girl Deepa, this girl Swetha, and then this girl who's my daughter that I all look up to. Like it's like there's a small handful of us in this kind of like commercial space. We've never really all worked together like in that kind of space, and we all have different lanes in it. But yeah, then like all the projects that I have worked on with other brown people have been brown-based projects that are either like, with actors and so yeah, there's that kind of tip. I'm curious to hear what you discuss.
Yeah, for the second one, I'll go backwards just a little bit. For the second one, like absolutely, no matter what style you do, you need to have the artistic integrity to acknowledge whether you are sufficiently trained or not trained in that style. And because you have to hold just because, yeah, for the second one, I'll go backwards just a little bit. For the second one, like absolutely, no matter what style you do, you need to have the artistic integrity to acknowledge whether you are sufficiently trained or not trained in that style. And because you have to hold just because my skin is brown, like I've never lived in India, right? So like I think like Mystic India is a fantastic example of this. Like Katie, who's one of the dancers in Mystic India, has lived in Chennai longer than I have lived in Chennai, even though I'm South Indian, right? So, like, arguably, her lived experience is actually, like, more Indian than I. Like, you could make that argument, right? And so, like, the point is, like, when both of us train, like, perform in Mystic, there are things that both of us had to learn because there were things that neither of us knew about the various types of dance styles, you know, done in Mystic. I never done mudras before Mystic, right? Like then, and then now I've like learned some of them by watching Ramita and the Bharatanatyam dances in conversion, but I never like sat and trained in any of these things, right? So just because my skin is brown doesn't mean like I get a pass, because like if a white person did that, you'd be pissed at them, right?
Yeah.
Like vice versa, right? Like we get really angry, like for my voice to be sort of like valid in tap dance, which is a Black art form, like it's only fair for me to go and study the culture and the history of the form and really breathe it before I even have the gall to like try and add something to it. But then like we have to hold ourselves to that same standard. Just because it's our culture doesn't mean we get a pass, right? Like is it even our culture? Because we're not Indian. We're Indian American, which is like almost a completely different culture from Indians. Like, is it even my culture? Like, I don't know, right? So I think there's that thing. So no matter if it's, I'm 100% with Amita. Like if I'm doing African dance, like I better have a project that's going to give me African dance training. If I'm doing Kathak, like I've never done Kathak before, you better give me someone who's going to train me in Kathak, because I don't really know anything about it. I've seen it, but it doesn't mean I know how to do it. So I feel like that's really important, because a lot of, how do I phrase this? Social media South Asian artists in the US have a bad habit of labeling a style as something and just thinking because they label it a certain way that makes the style that, right? So like, I'm doing hip hop. So just because you say you're doing hip hop doesn't mean it's actually hip hop. Like it doesn't look like any street style anything. And so it's really important that we hold ourselves to that standard, because then we can't get angry when other people appropriate our culture if we're doing it to other styles, right? Like it's, all of this is like a two-way street. So 100% with on that one. On the former, yeah, to me, at this point, it's very difficult in the if there's a lot of South Asian creatives in the US, but if you focus yourself to like commercial Western dance, right? So like Brinda is fantastic, but she's like doing like fusion work, whatever. So if you focus yourself to like Western commercial dance, yeah, there's like 4 of us who've like not worked together. And to me at this point, we're all in such different lanes that like I can't even think of a project. It would be really hard to find a project that makes sense to bring all of us together that is not purely brown, right? Like the point is, here's all the South Asian creatives in the commercial dance space. Like, why would the 4 of us be in? Like, what project would you need a tap dancer and a musical theater dancer and a modern dancer and like whatever? Like, if you remove the skin color from it, there'd be like very few reasons to bring those people into the space. And so, I guess in my case, I don't think it's sad that that's the case, because like it seems like that's the only way that it makes sense given the space that we're in. But to Ramita's point, once you expand like the bubble to like actors and people doing fusion work and whatever, because we also do fusion work, right? So we work with, or we do shows with Brinda and Ishita and all these other people doing fusion work. Once you open the space to something that has a bit more saturation, then it just feels a bit sad, because it's like, okay, there are a lot of South Asians doing fusion work. So why is the only time that we're talking about cultural fusion together is when it's like brown people? And why is there not just 2 brown artists in a fusion show where there's also like Black work and Latino work and whatever? So it really depends on the space you're talking about, because the US is in a weird place where some places are like decently saturated with South Asian artists and some places are just not at all. And I'm guessing the UK is there too, where it's just so industry dependent.